People catch me talking to myself and they don't realize, like an iceberg, it's 1/10 of the conversation. The rest of it's inside and it's crazy pants. Welcome to Not Right Now, the podcast about parenting through all of this.
Welcome home where you guys, all the laundry has been done, all the luggage has been put away.
Maybe we've discussed this before. I'm one of those crazy people. I mean, we pulled into the house at almost 1 a.m. So I guess technically Sunday morning, Saturday night, Sunday morning. And I immediately started emptying suitcases and doing laundry. I have to look around and be like, I'm done. I didn't finish the laundry, but I started. Suitcases were emptied. Now the children empty their own and they've got to put it in their bin. They got to bring me the bin. But my shit, Dana shit, emptied, gone like it never happened. So I didn't go to bed till, 3:30. But I got that stuff done. Yeah, we've been home for 3-4 days. It's great. It's great. We're recovering.
Yeah, so tell me about the trip. Tell me, you sent me, I sent pics or didn't happen. You sent me one photo.
Uh-huh.
Pretty meager. But yeah, I want to know what you would do differently, what you would recommend. And the not right now of it too is I'm so curious to hear like how you hit the, just the right medium of forcing the kids to appreciate what was happening, but also, not nagging them and guilt tripping them constantly.
As you know, I'm usually subtle about those kind of things.
Mhm.
So I took that right up to Alaska. It was great. Truly wouldn't change a thing. Here's the deal. Alaska, even before I got into this stupid career, Alaska has been top of my bucket list forever. And this Alaska and the experience we did blew it out of the water. It was amazing. So for listeners, we did essentially a week, 6 days, 6 nights or so on a small boat. I mean, not like a fucking canoe, but not a cruise ship. 5 crew, holds 12 passengers. There were only 10. We were 5 of them. 6 days, 6 nights, basically, in Glacier Bay National Park, Alaska. And shout out, by the way, to our amazing crew, our captain, Jake, our cook, chef, Sven, the naturalists, Savannah and Monica, and the engineer, Jordan. They're all amazing, but also did 12 other jobs on top of all those things. They're amazing. The ship's called the Sea Wolf. Can't recommend it enough. A few other friends recommended it to us. It is a 1941 minesweeper that's still alive, still has the original engine, which they let me touch, which is surprising. It's fantastic. And basically every day in a very low key way, which was great for us. And I kind of checked ahead of time, but it was great. It came through. We were encouraged to offer the opportunity, depending on how we were feeling and what we were thinking of, let's say in the morning shift, a very easy, I'm not even called a hike, like a walk for 2 to 4 hours through foliage and amazing ecosystems, all of which were pretty different, which is crazy considering how small the actual area is. Or in the afternoon or vice versa, or whatever, the same tempo of a kayak. And that sometimes wasn't available because if we're in an area like the more northern parts of the bay, there might be a decent amount of ice around. And if the wind's blowing the wrong way, you can get trapped. Doesn't matter what kind of size boat you're in. So they would just be like, sorry, we're not doing the kayaks. But you could also opt out of that stuff, which was great for us if we needed to, but we really didn't. I think we didn't do 22 things. The other 5 passengers were all amazing people. If you're listening, I love you. I miss you. An older couple in their 70s, another couple about our age who didn't have kids, but very quickly adopted mine, which was fucking incredible. And a gentleman who mid-70s, done a lot of adventuring, rafting, things like that from Texas. Had recently lost his wife and ended up coming by himself. So we all tried to adopt him, which was great. It was amazing. My predominant thought was how grateful I am the entire time. And then the second one, I really want to go back with my guy friends and do it again. No cell, no Wi-Fi the entire time, which was incredible. Our oldest, with his first girlfriend, did say that we had, in the first 24 hours, severed him from her. So we dealt with that. It got better as it went along. We talked about being able to feel multiple things at a time. Jesus Christ. But it was really great. The kids are the perfect age, 12, 11, and 10. The crew was amazing with them, the other passengers. On the boat, the only places they were allowed to go by themselves, again, even at their age, and though they're really good swimmers, doesn't matter. Insurance, liability, fucking 35-degree water. It was basically like the salon, like small little living room. and the sort of little back deck where we ate, or their room, which was perfect. It was like the basement of the boat, 3 little bunks down below the little living room. Anywhere else, they had to wear a life jacket and they had to have an adult, preferably their parent, take them places. And the way to deal with that is to not take them places. And then they can't go. And it's amazing, including they can't get to your room, which is a real win, even though we were like 2 feet away. No, we did try to escort them wherever they wanted to go because I mean, just it's not a big boat. Again, it's a tiny little minesweeper. It was amazing. I mean, if I had done no activities and just rode on the boat and looked at fucking whales and foliage and trees and water,
Mm.
I would have called it a great trip.
You guys did see whales?
I bet we saw, again, not my opinion because it would be wrong, the naturalist's opinion, probably between 10 and 20 unique whales, mostly humpbacks, though we saw from a distance an orca or two, which means you got to get the fuck out of there at this point. Hundreds of sea lions and sea otters and harbor seals. And I mean, truly the variety and volume of birds. You don't see much fish unless you're actually on a kayak in a more shallow area because so much of it is glacier water, which is pretty silty in the top layer, so you can't really see through it. So many fucking bears, these things, goddamn. And you'd be hiking, you'd be like, well, that's fresh bear poop. Time to get in the kayak
I'm
and
out.
go as
No,
fast as
I'm
I can.
done. I'm already
Goodbye.
gone. I'm not
Goodbye.
doing this.
I know I'm going on and on here.
No, I wanted to
just,
know.
So just some quick context, which was really interesting because it's about your latter question of like, how did I balance shit out? Again, I'll get this wrong. Glacier Bay National Park. So Glacier Bay, again, Southeast Alaska, a very small part of Alaska, but really beautiful. So when the first white colonist explorers like really showed up there in the 1800s, Glacier Bay was it was one entire glacier. Like there was nowhere to go. So that has now mostly retreated into a bunch of smaller glaciers that other, again, white explorers found over time that are each retreating on their own. But what's so interesting if you do that math, when you're looking at ecosystems and things like that, especially these relatively I'm not going to say untouched, but not ruined places, every forest you're looking at, every shoreline, all these things, only a couple hundred years old. It's all like in geological and plant timescales, basically new, which is crazy, especially because they're all so different. So you're wrestling with the fact that, and for a lot of that time, it's been national park. Not a lot, but a third of it. Not a lot of folks have been here, which is really wild and wonderful. Yeah. It's a real snapshot. It's easy and correct and incorrect to say, well, indigenous people were there for a long time, and they were, but also we don't know because there was a glacier covering it for so long, which is so crazy and to so recently. So they've started to find some things, and some things they're able to carbon date, but this is a part of Alaska where they don't have a ton of data on that stuff. It's really interesting, again, in this very small specific part. So yeah, we saw, I don't know, 6 to 9 different glaciers now, all of which are in various stages of retreat, of course. Again, the main ones started retreating well before the industrial age. Not long before, but well before. Obviously, we've advanced that quite a bit. Again, it's warming about 4 times as fast up there as it is almost anywhere else. But I really tried, for me, to not fucking ruin it. I tried to really, and commiserating with the naturalists and everyone who's again, like anyone who's a passenger was not cheap, but also the crew wants to be there. You don't do this job unless you want to be there. You don't visit it because it's such a pain in the ass to get to and pay for it unless you want to be there. So you don't want to ruin it, but everyone already had a pretty good appreciation for what it was, why it was, and how it's changing. The naturalist, one of them, Monica, had, she's been leading tours on that specific boat for 11 years, I think she said. And every time we visited a glacier, she was not afraid to say, she wouldn't say, look what climate change has done. She'd be like, when I started coming, here's where it was, and here's where it is now. And when you look at what it is now, which if you'd never been to a glacier up close, it's unreal, man. It really, so much of it looks like, did you see Interstellar? You should watch it. There's a planet that's just covered in ice, and it looks like that. And because of the volume, it's crazy. Well, you just don't run into this sort of thing very often. And then you look and go, wait, that much is gone? Like, where the fuck does it go? And you go, oh, that's all this water that we're in, that we're
Mm.
driving our boat in. So I tried not to, but I would, as usual, like anything. When I buy the kids a bagel, I'm like, I hope you're grateful. So I
Yeah.
took that same attitude to that.
So what did the kids do then, like, for their downtime when you guys weren't
Yeah, for
sightseeing and
totally.
stuff?
So Kindles, but also, again, at any given moment, you could be having a conversation with one-on-one with someone, or in this little group, which we all got to know each other very quickly, or with the crew, or some combination of that, or just reading, and someone would be like, bear. And literally, because it's the point of the boat,
Mm.
the captain just stops. And you just sit in a place for an hour and a half, and we'll watch a bear do its thing with binoculars, right? Or a whale, which any of the sea life, not only are you not allowed to approach, to look for, or get closer to, but stay further away. And they were very respectful of that. But that doesn't mean they can't suddenly pop up near you. And, some of these animals, because the area is so new, and
Mm.
because they restrict it so much, I think it's in the entire bay, I think they said 2 total cruise ships a day, which is not a lot. And then 6 boats our size. We would maybe see 1 other boat a day, which is other humans. That's it. That's it. There's a few little camping sites, but pretty rare. So the point is, like, just the riding on the fucking boat was a huge part of the experience. And they would say, do you want to go kayaking? We're like, we're drinking coffee and it's like raining and there's whales. We're good. We're
Yeah,
good.
that's awesome.
So kids did that, and then I also got them, and I'll put the link to this in the show notes. Also not cheap, but been on my list for a long time. iPods, like old classic wheel iPods, right before the trip, because I always yell at them for listening to music on their iPads because they eventually just do 400 other things,
Sure.
and they love music, and they fucking love these things. So
I presume you got the iPods from, like, eBay or something like that, but I feel like I would get them and be like, "My new computer doesn't know how to get the music into the
mhm.
old iPod."
It's a really good question. It's a guy in Europe. I researched it quite a bit. He does refurbished ones, brand new batteries, which last forever, but also brand new solid state hard drives. So instead of 1,000 songs in your pocket, still one of the greatest ads of all time. I think I put 3,000 songs on each of theirs, the same 3,000, and it used up 1% of the space or something like that. And so basically, it actually does work if you have a Mac, hooks up to the iTunes, and the Mac will recognize it. And you can only drag over either music you've ripped from CDs or you actually purchased from iTunes. But it works very well.
Was there any seasickness from anyone?
All over the first day for 20 minutes, we brought a lot of non-drowsy Dramamine, which
Mm.
is the cheat code. Truly, like, little canisters, just keep them with you. Kids can take half of one, but now he's huge. He just takes a whole one, and he was good. No.
We get the bands because James loves reading in the car, which is
Yeah.
relatable, but it makes him sick. Did you watch Poop Cruise, the Netflix? I'm not saying you should, but that made me think of you.
No, I don't know what
Okay.
it is. I'm not interested because of the name. And no, I'm aware of it. I've had friends run into that sort of thing, if that's what you're talking about. No, we were very lucky.
It's not what I thought it was. Steve and I watched it. This will be for one of our future episodes on how you keep the romance alive. One of them for us
Mm-hmm.
watching Poop Cruise. If you are like in a bad headspace and want to clear your mind and watch something pretty dumb, that's it. And I presumed, based on the title, that it was one of those like norovirus cruises, but I don't remember this story. But it was a ship, a Carnival cruise that lost all of its power because they had a fire in the engine room, and so all the power is out, and the power controls the toilets. There's a lot of things wrong with this doc, and I can go into it, but one of the things that bugged me was that they didn't talk to anyone who had a child younger than 12 years old. Again, there's a lot of weaknesses with this doc, but I was like, I can't believe no one talked about the people with diaper babies
What are
and,
you talking? Like, that's crazy.
yeah, and
That's
these
our
and this
target audience.
this cruise should have been 4 days long, and it ended up being 8 days long, and at one point, to mollify the guests, they started giving away all the booze, which to me was one of the scariest parts, honestly, more than anything else, but
Can I tell you
anyway.
something? And you can
Please.
put this in my advance directive. If that happens, you can just kill me.
I've never been on a cruise, and they're showing footage of it, and I was like, "This looks like my nightmare," and just because it's so many people in an
Mm-mm,
enclosed space, and
mm-mm.
that's really what gives me the heebie-jeebies.
In climate change, we call that externalities. How many
Mm,
things you're exposed to at once, and I'm not doing it. My kids are enough. It's bad enough. I would go down there in their little, like, bunker room, and
mhm.
there's a little bathroom in there. Claire, you never been more upset by how bad something smelled. I'm like, you've been here for 48 fucking hours. I'm like,
I
what is your
bet.
problem?
Well, and then my other question was, what did you guys eat? Like, how did they feed you?
Yeah, so there's a cook on board, and basically you fill out these forms ahead of time and basically what you eat, if there are any allergies or restrictions or not, or I guess preferences. A lot of fish, crab, which is great. But they also had a lot of good greens. There was a walk-in freezer below, so they keep things, relatively fresh. Yeah, again, between the cost and the time to get out there, need to stay at a hotel, or we stayed at bed and breakfast on the way out there. Again, from the East Coast for us, coming from smaller town Virginia, it was 4 flights to get to the boat, 4 flights to get home, 5 people, and then the boat itself. It's a lot. It's not cheap, but best money I've ever spent, and I bought my kids. So
Yeah. Tell people who are listening about the packing and how well the kids did packing themselves up.
so bad. It was so the boat was like, here's the deal. We do the same trip every week to the same place. We provide this rigorously tested list of clothing and gear you should bring and all the things you do not bring. And my kids, upon given each, of course, I made a list for each of them, 3 columns, things you definitely have that we as a family have in our house, in our possession. Things we do not have that we might need, like actual rain pants. Like you might not have like rain pants, right? And then what has been packed. And as we've talked about, we've tried more and more to be like, it's your responsibility. You didn't bring your lunch to school, water bottle, go fuck yourself. This was not the trip to do that. And thank God we caught it in time, because when Dana and I went up there the night before, of course, and said, okay, you guys said you packed, that's great. I think Henry had 2 socks. They asked you to bring 8 pairs just for the boat.
Mhm.
I think Oliver had an odd number. Charlotte, I think, didn't have any underwear. No one had hats for sun. I think Oliver brought a couple t-shirts for Alaska. It was catastrophic.
Yeah.
Catastrophic. And again, I was like, add nothing else that's not on this list and bring everything that's on this list. No room for maneuvering on any side. And they said, I'm not going to fucking do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Hat math is like water bottle math, where you're like, how is my house full of disgusting baseball hats, and yet none of you can find one when you need one, or find the one that you need, or you
Especially
don't
not
want
the
to
one they
take
need
it.
for their game. We fixed it. It was exactly what they needed, because you get stuff dirty
Mm.
and wet. Like, wrong week to stop sniffing glue.
Yeah.
Don't give them the responsibility when it could actually fuck the whole thing up.
I had on Witches, I started a thread about, what are your kids bringing to camp for lunch? And a lot of them said our kids are packing their own lunch. And I kind of come from the same place where I'm like, I could do that, but then their lunch would be 5 small bags of Fritos and nothing else. So, and I guess that's their problem, but also, then I would have to be the one waiting for them to strain on the toilet to, register a meager poop, so
Screaming
it,
while they poop as a stranger
yeah,
walks in your house.
yeah, only
Yeah.
always when the shower is running.
Yes.
Yeah. And then my last question,
Yeah.
well, famous last words, last question. So for the flights, were you could do screens, like whatever, or what was your getting through the flight situation?
We made an agreement very quickly that you can use iPads, which again, they just only really get for Duolingo during the day. Normally, iPads on flights, not on layovers. And we had 3 layovers in the first day. Rest of the time, you could just fucking read a book, Kindles, which I'll stock with whatever, and iPods, or talking to a human. And they were pretty good about that. They're fucking idiots sometimes. I'm like, if you put your brightness at 100%, it's going to run out in an hour. And they go, that's not how it works. Okay.
Yeah.
I said, but I'm not going to charge it on this plane. I'm not taking all my shit out to do it. And 45 minutes into a flight to a full-on like Donner Party trip to Alaska, they're like, my iPad's out of batteries. And you're like,
Yeah.
I don't know what to fuck
Yeah.
tell you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm just gonna start screaming until somebody fixes this.
So yeah, I mean, we tried not to ruin it with, look at how expensive this is, because they were actually on really
Right.
good behavior. We did more of that when we got home, and they were mad about going to
Yeah.
camp for a day, and we were like, are you fucking kidding me?
I was wondering if they like fell apart at the end, because I do feel like my kids often are good through all the hard shit, and then it's at the very end when they all start, falling apart. And it's harmless, but you're all exhausted, so everything
You're all
feels like
exhausted. It's
extra.
nobody's fault. I mean, you're fucked up. You've been in like dry air all day from the planes and screens and all that shit. You're coming back. It's 99 degrees outside. Like, it's awful. They were pretty good. It's a 4-hour time difference. Definitely fucked them up for the first few nights,
Yeah, yikes.
which then fucked us up.
I wanted to know about the ADHD, like how that all went then in terms of the medicating. What was your guys' method with that, or you just like, let's let it roll and see how it goes?
Did not do that. Medicine in the morning. 2 different experiences. One, when they're in a kayak and can't fucking go anywhere, it's what are they going to do?
Right.
Two, when they're walking in a forest where there's definitely been bears in the past 12 hours, you better make sure you've given that child their fucking medicine. Because there are definitely times where you're like, that dude's 100 yards away to stream, which is exactly what they told us not to. Like, his odds of dying right now without a bear in sight are 90%. So that's how that went.
Yeah. You guys are amazing parents to give your kids that experience and take me with you next time.
Again, not cheap, not the most expensive, but not cheap, all included, not the flights. But I find it very difficult to believe that anyone could experience that for even 24 or 36 hours and not leave with, beyond appreciation, a resolution to protect more places, but also to give more people access to those kinds of places in a, in a leave no trace kind of way. Let's talk about James' desire for the 4 free bobbleheads.
So last week or 2 weeks ago, we had a marathon day of events where we went to the Chicago White Sox game, which is an hour drive away. And we bought the tickets and we took my parents. So this is all, very expensive to just do that. And we actually got them before the game started, but they were giving away Louis Aparicio bobbleheads, which were in way more demand than I thought they'd be. So they were all gone by the time we got there, which is fine. So we go to the game, come home, and then we go to see Weird Al perform at Ravinia, which is you guys have Wolf Trip, I know in DC. That's like our version of that, an outdoor music place kind of thing. And we hired a car to take us to Ravinia because I didn't want to deal with schlepping our shit
Sorry,
and
this is all
taking them.
one day?
Yeah, one
Jesus
day.
Christ. Okay.
Yeah. It actually all went pretty well aside from me. No, I did yell at James. I lost my shit because he was trying to tell me I accidentally closed the door on in Paul's face, and I was asking a woman what time the show ended, and he was interrupting me like, "Mom, you closed the door in James's face." And I snapped at him and I said, "I'm talking to her right now. She's more important than you are right now." And then I don't know if you ever yell at your kids and then you hear like a small smattering of like giggles from adults in the like who can hear you nearby. So that was the main thing that happened. Anyway, but the game was fun. We caught a rare White Sox winner. We saw Nancy Faust, who's the legendary organist for the team. She's the reason why you hear Kiss 'em Goodbye whenever they take a picture out of a baseball game. But yeah, some White Sox game coming up. I think they're giving away a selection of pitcher bobbleheads. And James already has like probably 10 bobbleheads that he's gotten from other people or through us over time. And he said, "I wanna go. Let's go to that." And it was just one of those things. I didn't have the energy. I had a rough mental health day yesterday, and I was like, "I'm just gonna skip this lecture right now." But I wanted to be like, "Dude, those are free to you, but the tickets alone would cost 300, $400, and this is for a bad team, a bad, unpopular team, not to mention the time of going down there, and then you buy all the food and drinks, which is another probably a couple $100. And so, yeah, that's all. Just that he thinks that that's how you acquire bobbleheads is by just, the freedom that comes with that. So I didn't have it in me to yell at him about the waste of it all, but that's how he thinks things work.
How does a parent explain that to them without yelling at them? I don't understand. Because once you've gotten to that point and it's about something like that, after a day like that, and we did have to have a couple of these conversations back about, I understand you want to wait to go to camp until noon, but it starts at 8, mom and dad jobs, and we did birthday parties in New York and Alaska. I'm going to need you to remember what you have, not just what you don't have.
Mm.
But it was a version of yelling because I
Yeah.
didn't know any other way to get the point across at this point.
Well, for the record, in my family, yelling is any sort of tone or discussion that is negative. I found a new approach, which is to threaten them with a lecture. But I'm tired of hearing myself talk like that, and I'm tired of being the bitch, the constant bitch police, like the killjoy. There was something going on, like where they were asked, I forgot what, but I said, "James, I'm queuing up a talk pretty soon coming up about having too much and not having enough." And I was like, "Do you want to hear it now or do you want to hear it later?"
I'm fucking into this.
All right. Well, yeah, it's a little like appetizer of this is on deck, and we can either cue it up, go for it now, or you can hear what I have to say.
But just a little taste, just a little preview, and give them
Just so
the
you know.
choice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because like for instance, yesterday I took Paul, our older one, to this outdoor concert across the street, and there's this plumber company that hires. My husband was wondering how they are operating because they hire all of these young hotties to work for them at these concerts and do giveaways. And they were giving pup cups, things of whipped cream for the dogs. And then they had like goodie bags for kids with who the fuck knows what in it. Definitely plastic water bottles.
We
And
just
Paul
talked
just
about this.
grabbed it. He's so comfortable with it. And I bought him a piece of pizza. I bought him a Pepsi. By the way, the open Pepsi is in the fridge right now, along
Mhm.
with a Gatorade that's been in there for 4 weeks. And I said, "What was in that gift bag?" And he said, "I don't know." He's like, "I know, I should probably just throw it away." And fortunately for him, was too tired to be like, "Actually, what you should have done was just not fucking taken it." But then we could, roll the tape back and be like, "Well, he could have just not come with me."
Yeah, but that
I
makes
don't
it your
know.
fault. Fuck that.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't
Also,
know.
fuck them for giving out gift bags. God damn it, we did a whole fucking thing on this. There isn't
I
completely
know.
unnecessary in a
I
thousand
know.
different ways.
And I feel bad for this young hottie who works there because he asked me last week, he said, "Have you gotten your sewer rotted lately?" And I was like,
Excuse me?
"Actually, I made a magnet in a service
Excuse
way, sorry, not in a I'll clean your pipes kind of way." But I took a lot of pleasure in being like, "Actually, we did get our sewer rotted just last
Mhm.
week." And
Yeah,
he
you
was like,
did.
and he asked me again. He's like, "Did you live in the neighborhood?" And it's funny, everything sounds like a pickup
Wait, is
in
it
this
the same guy?
and he's like this arrogant young man. I know, he should look like but I was like, "I talked to you last week, and we did get our sewer rotted," but I was like, "Now I have to come up with I'm gonna have, like, a bunch of hair in the drain or something to have them come over because I feel
Mhm.
bad." So,
This
yeah.
is fantastic. I'm so
Yeah.
excited about the storyline. So, what did this honestly, what did this do to your mental health? Talk to me about that.
Which one? The bobbleheads or the free
You
shit
said what this
or
looked like for you yesterday. You're only as happy as your least happy kid. Tell me, like, what does that really mean for you and how you deal or dealt with it and how you either took that out on them or just left?
Yeah, so, I mean, just yesterday was one of those days, and you can never tell. You're like, "Did I just not get enough sleep? Maybe am I, like, a little bit sick?" Paul was sick on Monday. He stayed home from camp, which made James furious because
Mhm.
Paul got to do what James always wants to do, which is be on screens all day long. And he, wasn't just feeling blah, just trying to get through it. And then kids come home from camp. James gets a little bit of screen time. We still knew this was coming. Like none of this was a surprise, but he had to get off to go to baseball, which he ostensibly loves. And he's just the world's biggest asshole. Like I've been texting with another friend, same thing about being treated like a maid or an annoying robot, just like talking to you like shit. And we were texting about this last night where you're like, do other parents do their kids just not talk to them this way? Or do I just have this really inconvenient amount of, low tolerance for being treated like shit? I don't know. But we immediately were like, we almost kept him home from baseball as a punishment, but we knew that would be like punishing ourselves. So Steve took him to the game. And every once in a while, it just gets in your head where you're like, at least for me, I don't want to presume for other people, but you're like, my kid's a jerk because we made him that way, or I'm not able to be sweet and happy enough to help him not be that way, and or I'm too selfish to just take all his shit, and I'm not parenting the way I should, and maybe I was never meant to be a parent, and why am I complaining anyway? Because I have everything and I shouldn't be that way. And I just put myself to bed at 8 o'clock or so. Steve and James were at the baseball game. Paul, after he brought home his free garbage from the free concert, I gave him more screen time, which I know didn't help anything, but he has the ability, and truly, like, not every person or every child has this ability to, like, get off screens and not be a jerk. Like, it is his superpower and yeah, I put myself to bed, and then what's kind of ironic is that everyone ends up convening in my bed, like, to talk to me or tell me about the game or to
Oh god,
goop
go
at with
hey.
the dog. Well, in the end, it ends up being kinda nice where you're like, everyone redeemed themselves a little bit, but, what didn't help, I guess the irony of it was that I found myself having one of those days where I was just too online, and you end up refreshing the news, or refreshing Reddit, or refreshing your email, looking for that dopamine hit, and who knows what form that would take,
Mhm,
and,
mhm.
so I was, like, also mad at myself. I was like, I fall into the exact same trap that James does, and I'm no better than he is, and then it's just I don't know. I don't know if you get in those days, maybe you're better at ripping yourself away from it, like, how especially when you have 3 kids, so that's one more child who is able to drag you down into the abyss with them.
I have a few questions.
Mm.
One, why do you let them come in your room and on your bed? You clearly like your kids more. I had this tweet a few years ago. It didn't get much play, but I thought it was great, which was, you know that meme, one does not just walk into Mordor? Were you allowed to just walk into your fucking parents' room whenever you wanted, like without knocking, open the door, hang out, like just explore shit?
I definitely dug through their stuff for sure,
But
but,
while they were there,
no, when I was little, if I had a nightmare, if I felt sick, probably, they would definitely I was not asleep, to be clear. I was in my bed reading, so it was like
but even
office
during the
hours.
fucking day, my kids come in, I'm like, "The fuck are you doing in here?" What they're like, "I don't know, I just thought I'd open this book and move this glass of water and throw this shit on the ground." Get the fuck out of my room. I have one space in the entire get the fuck out. You don't just walk into Mordor, and they don't fucking
I
care. So that's
I
my
mean
first thing you should
okay,
fix is
okay.
they gotta get out. Invisible fence. I gave you a door knocker. You can put it
Mm,
on the door, and it's permanent.
yeah,
It's always not right now. That's the secret. It's like gremlins. It's always
yeah,
not right now. The answer is, yeah, of course I make myself feel awful about all of it. It's hard, right? I can put up all these. I was going to use as my yes right now, this great app we might have talked about before called Freedom. Been using for 15 years. I'll put it on my phone and it makes it a real pain in the ass to actually sign into something that's blocked. You have to restart your phone and all this shit. So the friction is good. But even then you find ways around and you find yourself scrolling and shit. Does it help? Like, again, the kids packing their lunch. If you just put good food in the house, does it actually matter if they pack their lunch? If you've programmed your Instagram feed to just be like, you know, people working out and food, is it that much of a problem? Not particularly, but it doesn't matter what it is. I will immediately do I should have been doing this. I should have been
mhm,
doing work. I should have been doing lying in the kid's bed while they won't stop fucking moving, trying to fall asleep. It's less like comparing myself to them about getting off screens and more just like immediately using any moment of self care is probably not the word, whatever it is, detaching from reality in any way. I can make myself feel like shit about any of it because it
mhm,
is hard to be it's on the face of it, objectively, to come home from this job or from your job on your fucking computer all day, to walk in another room and open a screen to look at the same shit, to relax, is insane when you do the math on it, right? You're not, it's not different. It's just on a smaller screen and it's the same shit. And your kids are in the other room. And yeah, a lot of times they don't want to fucking see each other. You don't want to see them. They don't want to see you. But I don't know. It seems crazy. So I guess I'm trying to do books more or read. I think this is part of the reason I like to read the same books as my kids a lot of the time, at least for home stuff. So we have an excuse, like a vehicle to do leisure things together. I'm also really trying, and I guess it's the same thing. Like I try to give myself a leg to stand on in the arguments about screen time with them. If I'm on it all the time, how the fuck am I allowed to yell at them? And I love
yeah.
to yell at them about it. So I can't not do that. I don't know,
I
man. It sucks.
I'm in a weird place, like, at least with Evil Witches and some of my other work is that so much of my work involves being online, I feel like, and trying to see what people are talking about, and like I said, Evil Witches began as a Facebook group, and I'm on it much less, which makes me feel weirdly guilty, like I turned my back on the thing that I started, but also I don't enjoy being on Facebook, and then on top of it, I was just listening to this podcast, Celebrity Memoir Book Club, and they were going over this book, Careless People by Sarah Wynne
Jesus.
Williams. Do you know that book? Did you
Oh,
read
I'm
it?
aware of it. No, I get it.
Oh,
I got it.
It's so
I got it.
upsetting. Like, it's like I knew Mark Zuckerberg was not great. Like, I never thought he was a good, and then you're like, "Oh, he's so much worse than I thought he was, and Facebook is so much more insidious than you," and, it makes me wanna, like, completely deactivate my account, but then, again, that community is still there, and my pictures are still there, and sometimes you need it for journalistic purposes. I interviewed, Emily Gould, who, an OG Gawker editor about this, and she
Mhm.
had a good simile. She was reticent to use this simile, but I think it works about comparing it to having an eating disorder, where you do need to be online slash to eat food, and then it's so easy to use it in an unhealthy way, like
Oh,
unlike
yeah.
like alcohol, you can live without alcohol. You can conceivably cut it out of your life. I can't work if I'm not on the internet. So,
And I'm
and
not
some
happy about that, to be
mm,
clear. Like, I don't love that I have to make these trade-offs, but that's where it is, and it fucking sucks.
well, and then you were asking about the kids coming in my bed, and they're not welcome to come climb in my bed, and they don't. Like, when lights out, bedtime, no one like, fortress of solitude. But this is not witchy, but sometimes it's, like, kinda nice that they wanna come see me, especially with
Totally.
James. Like, we had such a bad day, and it felt like a bad series of days where he came in and was much more neutral, positive, telling me about his game, and then Paul is going to be 13 soon. And I'm achingly aware of not a lot of time left where he'll actually want to spend time. Steve is complaining about how Paul babbles so much lately and goes on these like weird tangents and non sequiturs. And it bugs Steve to shit. And I'm like, hey, at least he's talking to us. Like, I'll
Yeah.
take it.
Take what you
But
can.
after all of my bitching and moaning, and I was like, I'm going to go in bed and read my book, this book, Martyr, really recommend. We ended up like bonding over some funny like Instagram reels, like a dog that was holding a bunch of kibble in its mouth and spit it out. And then this Nathan Fielder clip where he was in a job interview and a 7-year-old was feeding him interview answers. And Paul was crying, laughing. And it was like, not to be cheesy, but like seeing him smile, like smile with no reservations, with no
Mhm.
self-consciousness is one of my like favorite little things. So the internet taketh and the internet giveth. And yeah, don't have it figured out.
No, there's no way to figure it out. It is immense good. Our friends over at wonderful organization called Our World in Data, they do exemplary work. Could exist without the internet, would be much more difficult and much more difficult for people to amplify their work. They did an incredible article about just how many folks in Africa are connected to banking now because of mobile phones, which is something that started 20 years ago, way before we started really banking here, honestly. But that's the only way they're banked, and it has changed lives. It's incredible. Wouldn't exist without the data layer. Also Roblox, or whatever, like 4chan. It's crazy. And Instagram, all that shit can be the same way. I will sometimes, people catch me talking to myself and they don't realize, like an iceberg, it's 1/10 of the conversation. The rest of it's inside and it's crazy pants. And same thing, I'll find our oldest is really into music and percussion, and there's a couple amazing channels, people playing like awesome, and they're playing popular music and this and that. I'm like, I got to share this with them. And I'm like, I'm always telling them to get off and don't do this and this. I'll spend half an hour doing that, not show them the video, and then, be mad I didn't go to bed on time. It's not
Yeah.
great.
I also wonder, and it's so trendy that I'm embarrassed that I even think this sometimes, but I am one of those women of a certain age that I'm like, do I have undiagnosed ADHD? Certain things do add up. Or am I just, a person living in this year? But I guess the good side of having a kid with ADHD is like, well, there's no point in me getting diagnosed because getting medicine is such a pain in the ass. I'm just going to continue grinding it out
Yep.
with my bouts of, intense productivity, followed by like fallow periods of, and, where I'll go through be like, all I want is to do nothing. And then I'll have a day of doing nothing. And after 3 hours of it, I'm like, I hate this, and so I have all these tabs open right now behind our conversation and I'm patting myself on the back that I'm talking to you and not reading about how Sofia Vergara and Tom Brady might be dating each other and how Queer Eye for the Straight Guy is going to be canceled and this lady from Love is Blind, not Love is Blind, Love Island who's getting canceled. See, I already know all this stuff. I don't even need to read about it. I'm just catching up. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to this to date.
Your open tabs. What are your other open tabs right now?
Oh, no, they didn't, which is a very old fashioned live journal gossip site, but it still serves it up. And I read FOMA, which is another gossip site that's on Reddit. Every day at lunch, I open up my tabs. It's kind of curated. It's a lot of New York Magazine stuff. I read some RuPaul's Drag Race gossip Reddit. And yeah, it's a lot less than it used to be, but that's my downfalls. I'll usually be like, "Ooh, yay, time to catch up on my internet." And then I'll be done. And then like, well, let's start rolling the dice and seeing what's coming up, and I always end up on conservative Reddit because I want to see what they're saying. And then
Do
that
you?
is usually, yeah, because I have this really bad habit of being like, people can't be saying the worst thing possible, can they? And then you're always like, yeah, they are. They still are, like they have been every single day.
Mhm.
And
They're
yeah, I
there or
don't know.
not.
Yeah, the only reason I read it is when it gives me satisfaction when Trump pisses off his own people, and that's
Mhm.
like when I'm happy. But like, for instance, they're all talking. Not they're all. Excuse me. Let me roll it back. There's a lot more posts about the liberals who are allegedly cheering the devastating, horrible, every parent's worst nightmare summer camp floods versus actually talking about how these deaths could have been prevented, and like the weather forecasting that was rolled back. But again, why do I need to know that? How does that make me better off? So I don't know. I wish I had more self-control, but I don't.
I don't say this to brag. I say this because I think it's actually crazier because I am the exception to the rule here. I cannot have open more than 2 tabs at a time, period. And at the
Mm,
end of the day, end of the session, they got to go away. My 2 tabs I have open right now, and this is going to go on the journey of making myself feel like shit about this. There are 2 New York Times cooking tabs One is chili crisp and honey roasted salmon, which sounds amazing. And a cold cucumber avocado salad. Also sounds amazing. They pair together. It's great. I open them and I go, that's going to be amazing this weekend. And then my next thought is, you can't make that you're at a fucking swim meet the entire weekend. And then Sunday you have 72 chores you've pushed back because you went to Alaska. And then the third one is, when was the last time you cooked anyway? Like genuinely, when was the last time you fed your children something that required more than taking it out of the refrigerator? And 4 was like, are they going to remember that? Or what are they going to say when people ask them, like, did you guys cook? Did you have meals? Do they remember when I used to cook? That's how my 2 tabs go.
Yeah, no, I like that journey. It's very relatable. First of all, well, that's every time I do what was I doing? Paul heard me sighing heavily, which is one of my favorite hobbies. And it was just choose your own adventure of your household where you go down to the basement to get some apples from the fridge and then you see that the laundry needs to be changed over, but then also you could hang up the, certain wet clothes to air
That's why I don't
dry.
work from home. Mhm.
Yeah, I need to do better at that. But yeah, it is the cooking thing. I food shamed my kids. My friend Virginia Smith would not appreciate this. And they did what you're supposed to do, but I made dinner. I made the New York Times. They had this, and you could eat this. It's a lemony orzo with garlic breadcrumbs and asparagus. And, kids like all this stuff. And they ate a polite amount, which I should be celebrating, but then they immediately went to the Takis, the Trader Joe's Takis in the cupboard. And I was like, guys, takes a while to make a recipe plan, make a shopping list, go to the store, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward to, lecture. And I'm like, it's kind of fucking annoying when I make all this food and you like why don't you try eating till you're full of the food that I made for you, of the fresh
Mhm.
food, but
Mhm.
again, well, I can
Yeah, I
hear
was gonna
myself,
say, how do they respond to that one?
They're like, good point, mother. Thanks.
You're always right. Yeah, I don't know. And then you go and again, you go home and open home. You go downstairs, wherever the fuck you are. I drive home. I pack up my laptop. Why am I here? I could laptop anywhere because I get so much anxiety from being at home. And I open other tabs, and they're the same tabs from the night before that I didn't finish. And I try to do it once they're in bed, but a lot of it is once they're in bed, but I could also just be spending, like, they want some alone time. They want to read. They've been at camp all day, shit like that. But they probably also want to hang out with me. And I've done a little. Could I do more? Do I make myself feel worse? Do I have the tabs open? Then do I go up? And then I look up and it's, 10:30, or I'm eating another
Yeah.
cookie.
So I woke up today and I was like, I'm going to try to do better than I did yesterday. And so, first of all, I amazingly sent out my evil witches without doing my thing where I do, write one sentence and then have a treat by checking Instagram or whatever. I pretty much stayed focused and I sent it off. I haven't even looked in the comments yet, which probably bad Substack behavior. I should be checking in and engaging with my readers, but
Mhm.
whatever. Then, because I don't know about you, like I still have this 9 to 5 mentality that doesn't serve me at all, but I always still feel like I should get everything important done early so that allegedly I can relax or do my hobbies or spend time with the kids when they get home from school or camp, even though they don't want to see me. Like I remember how annoying and stupid it was when my parents were like, "How was school today?" And you're like, "Fine," and they're like, "What do you mean?" And you're like, "Shut up." That's me now. And they don't want to see me. And I'm mad at them for entering my space. But my brain doesn't want to. Steve and I were both saying how ironic it is that you're like exhausted at 8:30, 8 o'clock when it's time for the kids to start going to bed. But then weirdly enough, once they get into bed, you perk up because maybe your brain feels like you have quiet now, or I don't know what. So anyway, today I decided to like kind of do nice things for myself first and see what happens if I save the work for later on. And also, P.S. doesn't matter. None of the work I'm doing is that important. So gotta get over myself.
Yeah, no, nothing matters. That's the other part of it. Get over it. Like, not
I
to
know.
diminish your work. I'm diminishing mine. We
No,
can
it's
talk about
true.
yours later. I don't know. I don't know.
It's
Willow
it's
and I talk about this all the time. In a given week, 100,000 people across the world interact with our stuff. How many people like want to? You know, like, how many people are like, oh, can't wait to, just throw shit against the wall and see if it'll stop the jet stream from fucking breaking. And you're like, great. I haven't written an essay in like months because every day
Mhm.
Willow goes, is this the week? And I go, I don't want to read anything. What the fuck would people want to read? What's useful to people?
Yeah.
I don't
Oops.
know. Not my
Yeah.
shit.
No, it is. I mean, part of it is the blessing and the curse of getting to do for a living what you used to do for fun. And so I'm
Yeah.
so
By the way, don't do that. Don't do that.
oh,
Fucking nightmare.
yeah, I'm all dried up inside, I watch a lot of
Uh,
RuPaul's Drag Race, and so I know
Amazing.
I know I don't know much about being a drag queen, but it seems to me that a common philosophy about being a drag queen is that you have to have a certain amount of delusion to be a drag queen. You have to believe you're the most beautiful girl in the world and be
Mm.
into that. And you have to feel like that way as a writer or a newsletter person. You have to pretend, even if it's not true, that someone will be mad at you if you don't send something out, or someone will be mad at me if I don't get them their not right now patron only content. If I don't get that set up now, they're gonna be like, where is it?
Can
As
I
if
tell you something? The only time people have, again, so proud of this audience we've developed, people with enormous leverage around the world, bartenders, people just trying to change things for the better, help other people. The only time people have said, hey, where the fuck is my thing, is with this podcast. It's people literally going like, hey, it's Thursday, like I need my fix. And I'm like, sorry, I was busy trying to stop the hate bill from going, the other hate, no, the other hate bill. And they're
yeah.
like, I don't care. I don't care about that. I just want the one.
Good. Well, that's good, but also now I
So,
feel bad too. So, but
well,
that's how
you,
I operate. If I don't, as Steve jokes that his family motto is as long as somebody feels bad. And that's I've taken that to heart. If you're not anxious about how someone feels about you, then you must be asleep or you must be dead or you must have taken too many drugs.
are there too many drugs at this point?
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know,
Did you
man.
know I might be going to a Fish concert in 2 weeks? So I'll let you know.
They're coming back here. They did this like legendary Hampton concert. However old we are, 40 fucking years ago. They're coming back. It's very exciting.
My high school friend Tracy, I introduced her to the band, and she and her husband are like people who follow Fish. And so I've gone to go with them and see them. And it's a really special experience when you go and you do take the right substances and you're with the right people. But it is quite like a marathon. And it's not like a Paul McCartney show where you're like, I know this one. This is the bop. Like this 2 minute song I've known
Yep.
for 40 years. Sometimes
Yep.
you're like, I've never heard this. This song is 22 minutes long.
Hmm.
There's all these
Are they alive
rules.
up there? Yep.
Right. And so there's a part of me that's like, I know I would have a lot of fun if I went, but also part of me is like, there's a thing I want more than to not go. So I guess we'll see where
Yeah.
the wind
Can you
blows.
go for half an hour?
It's at
That
the
like,
United Center, so which is like an hour drive, probably more, no, 90-minute drive minimum with traffic. So I really don't know.
I don't have much in me anymore.
Anyway, yeah. Oh, by the way, not really random
Please, that's
tangent.
what this episode is.
So Weird Al got rained out. We had outdoor seats, like a
Hmm.
huge storm right on our heads. I've never seen this in a weather description before. Slow moving. So this like rain that was supposed to last 15 minutes ended up being like a really severe storm. So most people kind of fled indoors, and we ended up watching the concert on a TV, which was probably the boys could enjoy a lot more because otherwise you don't really have much of a view. He's performing fat again, its entirety with a full fat suit and like face prosthetics. And
Wow.
yeah, and Steve, who is, like, not sensitive about anything normally, he was like, "This ain't age that great. This is I don't know about this one."
Wow. I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
and he
That's
was doing that fat suit thing where sometimes people do where they put on the fat suit and they get, like, extra goofy, like, I feel like Courtney Cox did that on Friends where you're like, "Ooh, what's going on here?" So, yeah, that was odd. It was a kind of an interesting choice.
is that like extra woke? Is he commenting on the commenting?
Well, I'll tell you this. I told a friend of mine who she self-identifies as fat. I told them about this and she said, well, allegedly he's saying it's like a body empowerment anthem now, but she's like, try telling that to someone like me who people would sing the song to you as a child. So to me, I say he does not have the right to, claim that as any kind of thing for his own. But whatever, Weird Al, still love him. I know he means mostly well, but it was weird because there were like definitely a lot of kids and people there who were like seemed to be neurodivergent, genderqueer, like this was their safe space. And I just was like thinking about what if there were like some fat folks there and they were like, this didn't sit well with me, but whatever.
How often a day do you think to yourself, I give up, I'm out?
In terms of what?
Anything, everything, anything.
At least once a day. I think about quitting my job mainly, quitting my Substack. That's a big one. Yeah, at least once a day because you can, because what does it matter? I think about, yeah, I am reading a book right now where someone takes pills and, ends their life and not I think about that. But you know what? I was thinking of you actually. I was making my bed
Oh,
today
this
and
is a phenomenal segue. Continue.
I whispered sleep to myself and I must do that like several times a week. And not only do I mean sleep, I mean like sleep forever. So that,
Hmm.
yeah. So, it's hard to quantify per day, but certainly several times a week at least.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's because everything is a lot and or I'm so tired, or just like my threshold for like grit is so much lower than it used to be, or is it because everything doesn't matter? I think it's all the combinations of it, right?
Or we have too much and our brains are just, having a tantrum because I'm like, did they have time? Like, was depression a thing 200 years ago? Like,
Well, no,
was
you
that
didn't
a
have anything. You lived till 30 if you're fucking lucky.
yeah.
And well, not 30 years ago. Well, unless you had AIDS. Yeah, I mean, there's a economist that's popular online, Noah Smith. I think he's the one who wrote a post recently. It was like, here's what it was actually like in 1776. And you're like, no, I get it. It was fucking horrendous. And everyone's like,
Yeah.
the founding fathers were in the prime of their youth. They're 21. It's like, no, they had 6 years left. That's it. And they wooden teeth and all the gonorrhea. But I don't know. Sometimes it sounds appealing.
If you ever read about, I don't know why you would know this, but this is kind of my thing. There's a Empress Elizabeth of Austria, and she was named Sisi, and she was like known, I feel, for being like the first depressed diva. She was just like
Mm,
known for being depressed,
hmm.
but also rich and gorgeous. And, but you're like, well, what about everyone who worked for Sisi? Were they allowed to be depressed as
Hmm.
well?
They
No,
have
or
to
did
like
they?
try to keep her going, or was this like her thing and you enabled it?
Yeah, I think all of it, all of the above, but the other thing though too is sorry, we're going really far afield, but postpartum
For
depression was
what?
from the task at hand. Postpartum depression wasn't like studied, I feel, except for like the last 50 years, maybe most. But yeah, just being a woman was depressing.
First of all, no postpartum depression. If you made it through childbirth another one because you didn't have a son, no pain medication, and then any hemorrhaging, which they were like, sorry. And then, aging as a woman,
Yeah.
no, we're not talking about that. What does appeal to me though is this idea of she's taken to the waters, like she's
Right.
off to like a
For the
lake somewhere.
sanitarium.
Yeah. Like you seen those sanitariums are great. No one talks to you. You're sitting like a
I
Adirondack
love it.
chair.
No screams,
Oh my
like
god.
the waters,
Take
and
the
yeah,
waters.
yeah.
That's oh my god. Send me away. Send me
Well,
away.
it's like how I discovered amazing, like, magically when we were in Mexico City, how happy I was, and, like, all I have to do is not work and eat whatever I want and
Mhm.
only discover things and have money to spend, and my biggest problem is, how many souvenirs do I buy? So how can we replicate that? But I did go today. There's a guy who owns maybe I told you about this. He owns a place called Sauna Club, and he has a little portable sauna, and so today I went there and I jumped in the lake several times, and I never regret jumping in Lake Michigan. So, like, that definitely helps me out. I need to, like, touch grass, but the water version.
Is the guy who has Sauna Club and it's a portable sauna the same guy who talks to you at concerts and asks if your sewer's been plugged
It's
recently?
rotted
S
my brain, yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
pulling it all together here.
yeah, no, it's really nice. It's very, middle-aged where you're like, "Oh, I looked outside and I wasn't on my phone and, start the day off right." And I don't even do the science about cold plunges, but, like, there
Nobody
it does.
cares. I don't fucking care. I don't care. It just like I'm doing something.
Can't you tell how uninflamed I am
I can.
by my
I
facial
can.
expression? Yeah. Anyway, so today, hopefully, I'll be less mad at the kids. We're thinking about, like, I know wild hair. I was like, maybe we'll go get some ice cream. And then I was thinking, like, of course, I was like, why are all your like rewards food related? Like, why can't you give them some kind of reward that doesn't involve buying them something? And, anyway, I'll just think about that later and we'll see about the ice. I mentioned going on the conservative Reddit when I'm sad. Another place I go to sometimes is regretful parents. And what makes me laugh is I'll go in there because I most sincerely sometimes think, was I truly not meant to be a mother? That's like
Mhm.
when I'm in a bad like that. And what's really funny to me, it's not funny. Their feelings are really real, but there's people on there who's like, I hate my son. Like he really fucked up my life and I wasn't meant to do this. And the kid is 4 weeks old. And, like,
Mm,
I'm like, "Talk to me when you've been doing this for 10 years, and then you, like, gotten to
mhm.
know the kid and really get to realize how much you don't like
You
yourself."
think you don't
And
like
then
him
you
now.
right, exactly. I also go to, for some reason, the rich Reddit because I like to see what rich people are talking about and how they self-identify, and so I can be mad at them and, like, this feeling of, "I hate you, but I'm jealous of you," all that kinda stuff. Do you have anything like that where you seem like you probably have too much self-control, but are there places that you go when you're feeling dark or weak that you check out that kind of feed that impulse?
A couple years after I got into all this, and again, it's a choice I can undo at any given moment. It is an enormous privilege to choose to do it and to conduct it from the perspective and many bootstraps that I have. But a couple years into choosing to do this, I remember Dana came home, and in our old LA house, you'd walk in the front door, like into the living room, and I was under a blanket on the couch into the living room. And she basically was like, either you figure out how to deal with this better or you don't fucking do it. That's where we are. And my version of that has been like, I mean, there's the chaotic good of something like Black Mirror. You're like, oh, this is not going to turn to 4chan. It's just like a forecast of our future, but again, it's still mainstream media. But I couldn't even do that. I can't do stressful, can't do anxiety, can't watch The Bear, can't like all this stuff. I'm just like, I'm out. Every time, what's the animal show I watch? All Things Great and Small. Anytime the stakes are more than like, will this dog lose 5 pounds or gain 5 pounds? I'm like, Dan, I can't do it. No. Somebody
Mm.
cries on baking show. I'm like, this is not what I signed up for.
Mhm.
So the answer is no, I
Okay.
really don't. But what is my fucking version? Like, again, I almost think what I'm doing is just as unhealthy, which is literally avoiding everything.
Yeah.
Like, which is not great. But at the same time, I'm like, according to who? Who tells me I need to, again, choose to expose myself to it's more existential things every day. I'm good, you know?
Yeah. No,
I don't
you're
know.
more noble than I am.
It's not
I've been
nobility.
and I've always had, like, a bad habit of wanting to know what the worst things people are saying or doing is, and I don't know why that is or just to make myself mad, and I'm not sure, like, what the point of that is, maybe to make myself feel superior. Like, I asked you if you've been watching that show, Your Friends and Neighbors, this John Hamm show, and it takes place in, an enclave of New York, and it's all these rich assholes, and he loses his job and he starts stealing from them, but it's kind of subtle where you forget, because he is the protagonist, that he's a bad guy. But I crave that it is more heavy-handed because I wanna hate these people more, I wanna enjoy hating them more, like, why are you giving them so much nuance? And the answer should just be, I stopped watching the show, but I was like, "No, I gotta see this through."
One, he's so attractive. Like, you just got to watch it. It doesn't matter. He's so attractive. Two, I can't do it. And, Dana thinks this is posturing, which fair. But I can't do the rich people. I can't do Succession, partly because it's like the extreme wealth and also the yelling at people like, it's Shakespeare. I'm like, I'm good. Like, our friend Lorene directed a couple apparently amazing episodes. She's incredible. Lorene directed Hustlers, which should have won 12 Academy Awards. I'm like, I can't do it. The only version of that I can do is Arrested Development. And it is the same show, except it's not the same show. And one, it's just total comfort food, but also those guys, Jason and Will had on Mitch Hurwitz, the guy who created Arrested Development, on their Smart List podcast pretty early, a few years ago. And there was one point in the podcast they were talking about, could we make this today? Could this get made today? And the answer is like, no, of course not, right? But also, Will had a really interesting point because he was like, it's interesting because no one's cheering for those people. Like, the
Right.
show is very clearly not cheering for those people. It is just shining a light on them and their absurdities. There is no version of them being like, yeah, Job should win this time. He's a
Yeah.
horrible person. Their version of showing sympathy for characters. It's like when Hello Darkness, My Old Friend starts playing over, and you're like, but he did this to himself. They're
Yeah.
greedy, awful people. I don't want it to be justified in any way. And
Yeah.
anyways, I don't know. Yeah, I just cut it all out. I can't do it.
My comfort food for hating rich people and again, what is defining rich? I guess, because you're
Oh,
like,
sure.
well,
No, we
the
fucking
fact
check
that
that
we're
box.
Yeah, exactly. But I will watch Below Deck because it gives me comfort to realize not everyone is an asshole. And unfortunately, like the most compelling groups are full of like assholes or drunks. But like, so many people come on and they're like poo pooing the smaller boats, or I wonder what the poor people are doing today. And you realize they all have the same cookie cutter experience and they're all eating the same frozen food and they're all like sleeping on the same like bed that someone had just come in, the night before. And I find that very satisfying and pleasing in a weird way that they think they're the shit and you're like, you are, just on a conveyor belt. And I like that. Makes me feel superior.
No, for sure. The Schadenfreude of it is great, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's like how we're in this era and people have written about it and talked about it, but it's really fundamentally true. Well, a couple things are true. They'll say we have the worst billionaires of all time, right? Which on a lot of levels is true insofar as like the number of people they can affect through their microphone or their actions, the number of people they choose to not affect positively, how they have built most of their wealth directly or indirectly on raping the ecosystems, right? versus, again, this is the other hand, the billionaires of old, all fucked up people. And I'm sure if they were online, we would have much different fucking attitudes of them. But they also made museums and national parks and all this shit and all that stuff because I don't know, they felt bad or someone told them to, or maybe they wanted to. I don't fucking know, or they were less distracted.
Tax breaks.
Yeah, but guess what? I don't fucking care. I don't
I
care.
know. I was just saying, I don't know if you saw that Trump referred to Anderson Cooper as like Allison, some homophobic way of ham-handed way. And I was thinking, I was like, I bet he hates Anderson Cooper because his family comes from actual money. And like even they have a university, like compare Vanderbilt to Trump University. But yeah, I think that too. The Bezos wedding, that was, I think, part of it was like, I think why it made everyone mad that it was like all of these people like, where is your shame? Like someone should have felt some shame there and not been there. And that's what's so infuriating.
There is, again, like we totally qualify as all those things, try to give it back as much as we can. I built a whole business on it, but it's still, is it ever enough? No, of course not. At the same time, boy, there's a lot of just, while we like have firmly based our business on the fact that they're real bad guys and you should identify them by name and destroy them, there's also just a lot of not good guys. And again, other hand, amazing people we work with. Oh, they're great. There's so many amazing people. There's a lot of just like people who are like, I'm not going to be a good guy. And also fuck those people,
Yeah.
Just do something with your time. And if you have anything extra, like Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So we'll see what our kids turn out to be like, which one of those they will be.
Felons.
Could I circle back to something from the top of the call? Tell me about Oliver's girlfriend and how long this has been going on for and what kind of conversations you guys have had, if any.
It's a really good question. She's very sweet. I don't know. It started in the fall, I guess. So it's, been a little stretch. First one. They're very sweet to each other. I make them talk on the landline as much as I can. They're wrapped up in each other. They're going to the same school for now, but won't be in high school. So see how that goes. It's sweet. She's a sweetheart. We have conversations like if it's a little like a horse. Don't look it in the eyes. If I ask him questions face to face directly, I think I told you how he just yelled at Dana once because she would just ask him direct question. He's like, "What the fuck?" And she was very harmed by it. I was like, "You can't approach an animal like that. Like you can't do it." And so my version of it is right or wrong. And again, like I take the baseball perspective. Like if I'm going 1 for 3, I'm getting in the Hall of Fame here, at least to my standards. He'll hang out in the basement, listening to music in the evening, doing nothing else, playing with Legos, whatever, but mostly just listening to music. And I will just kind of quietly go down and be like, "Hey, what's going on?" I'll just lie on the floor until he starts talking. And again, 1 for 3, he actually starts talking. And 1 for 3 of that something comes up about it. Because of Quinn, like, I'm a carcass. Like, he's like, any knowledge you have is Encino Man frozen in time. Like, it's nothing is valuable. But I did try to make, again, it's like the most basic thing. And you can read all these parenting and adolescent books and teen books and how hooking up now is so totally different than dating and all this kind of stuff. But I just try to base the conversations, if there are any, I was very straightforward. I will just listen or I will respond. Or, and I know you want this the least, offer some practical, I don't want to say like advice, guidance, whatever. I was like, I know that's rare and you got to ask for it. I was like, but the goal is to buy more of these. So I will try to do that. I said, but you got to tell me because I'm an idiot who tries to fix everything. That's what guys do. And I check that box for sure too. It goes fine.
That's good.
But it does bring things up, this and that. He'll be like, is this a nice bracelet she might want?
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah.
Okay, thought experiment. My friend, her son is 12, so same age as Oliver, right? He is going into 7th grade, and they go to Martha's Vineyard for a month every summer with her family. And he has some gal pal over there, and she said, "What should I do if they ask about a co-ed sleepover?" She's like, "I trust them completely, but something doesn't feel right." And I just knee jerk said no, because if you start this now, you can't ever roll it back. And
There's
also,
so much you can't put back in the box.
his little sister do that as well. And if she wouldn't do it, no, but I'm also Catholic and I'm prudish and I, like.
Yeah, we know that. No, here's except for the sewer guy. I have a fairly nuanced perspective on that. And I think I've talked about it a little bit. And we've tried to actually, it's applicable to like media as well, where we've tried to step back from demonizing everything and saying, this is inappropriate and saying not appropriate for you yet. For most things. There's obviously some things that are like, no. Right. That's before we get to porn and all that stuff. But, R-rated movies or books or whatever it might be. And I said, here's the deal, man. And again, my dad, moron, but tried to do a version of this in a much more caveman way. But you're going to do dumb shit. You're going to try shit. You're going to drink. You're going to smoke. You're going to hook up. You're going to play loud music. Whatever the things are. I really don't want you driving around at night. Like, I know you will, but I'd love to minimize it. And if I'm capable of doing that in any way, I want to start thinking about that now. I know you're going to do all those stationary things. You have great friends, and I actually really like most of their parents, and I trust them. A lot of military parents, things like that are just wonderful and grounded and more strict than I am. But we have a little more room for you to do that kind of thing, whatever, inside and outside. And so I just basically said, hey, listen, I know this seems like idealistic to you, but what can I do, thinking about it now, to make this the coolest, like evergreen coolest place for you and your friends to want to hang out, so that you don't feel like you need to go somewhere else and you don't feel like you need to be on phones, like, again, like watching porn or whatever it is when they're 16. And he was honest. He was like, we fucking love ping pong. He was like, let's bring up the game table from D&D. He's like, if we can just truly have a snack fridge and a drink fridge and like actually play, switch, like whenever we want instead of like my, arcane rules. He's like, that'd be great. I was like, I'll do all that. And part of what we're doing in this attic room, and this is coming all the way back to your question, is we're putting in these little like built-in bunks up there in this like teen hangout room. Because we all had friends day over. They slid in the basement. Everyone has crashes. People go, and by the way, a lot of the time, that's great. We don't have a lot of Uber around us. So it's easy to be like, well, your friend could take an Uber home instead of drunk driving, him or someone else drunk driving. We don't really have that. It's 15 minutes to get to somebody else's neighborhood. And people are going to spend the night. They're going to have shit like that. Would I consciously let, at this age, a co-ed sleepover? Absolutely not. Like 7 years ago when they were 6, great, have a great time. Throw 7 kids in the room. There's a window, though, where no. There's a window where you want to say no when they're like 16, 17. They're gonna do it. How do I set that up in like the safest, however you want to use that word, way possible? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's clear to anyone else too, which is I'm not encouraging it.
Yeah.
But I don't want you driving somebody home at 3 a.m, tired and or drunk or whatever, or doing this, or I don't know, man. So it's complicated, it's nuanced, but the answer to 12-year-old co-ed sleepover? No, that's a no. Does any of that make sense?
Yeah, no, totally. I just thought it was an interesting thought experiment for myself because I just was like, my fast response is no. And where do I go to it? But also it's easy for me to say because Paul doesn't have girlfriends yet. We'll see about this upcoming year or not.
I don't think it's like that. By the way, there's a lot of hand holding and that is extreme at this point. So I don't think there's anything questionable. 6 months, 12 months, like you said, 7th grade, 8th grade. No.
Well, a lot of it's not even like being worried they're gonna, touch each other's privates. It's more just like, you're not done cooking yet. I don't know. You know what? Let me not even speculate because it truly hasn't come up. And, I think my friend is pleased that her son has a female friend. And I know that I can imagine that feeling and like wanting to facilitate that and not wanting to shut that down. Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to speculate because who knows if that comes up, who the kid will be by then and with what the other person would be like. So I don't know. And also let us point out that too, that this is a very heteronormative conversation as well. So, we're ignoring like a huge swath of other permutations.
No, we are with those specific examples, but I think just in generally, like, again, any of my kids could end up being anything, love it all, support it all, maybe even better if they're queer or more, honestly. But I just want to set up, not like a safe space, but you get the idea. Like it's fully considered. And we're trying to do it outside too. Here's a little space. It's not in the woods, but like away from us, but we can see you with 5 Adirondack chairs. Go smoke your weed when you're 16. Okay, but you're here. Give me the car keys. So I don't know. None of it matters. Head to notrightnow.show for more or send us feedback, questions, horror stories, doxing, whatever it is, at questions@notrightnow.show.